40 leaders of different nations joined a climate summit this Thursday, organised as a virtual meeting to mark Earth Day. India reported a new global record for the number of COVID-19 cases and deaths registered in a single day this Thursday. According to Syrian state media, a missile attack launched by the Israeli regime from the occupied Syrian Golan Heights wounded 4 soldiers near the capital, Damascus. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is from the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. 40 leaders of different nations joined a climate summit this Thursday, organised as a virtual meeting to mark Earth Day. The summit served as a prelude to the United Nations Climate Change Conference to be held in November. Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Pope Francis were among the participants. Following the climate change denial of the Trump administration, US President Joe Biden formally pledged that the United States would cut its emissions by at least half from 2005 levels by 2030. However, Biden faces Republican Party critics of the measure. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping promised his nation will reduce its emissions by the end of this decade and reach carbon neutrality by 2060. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterated his promise of installing 450 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. Japan announced that it would cut emissions by 46% below 2013 levels by the end of the decade. However, its environmental pledges have been undermined following last week's announcement of the planned dumping of wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean. Every April 22nd, the United Nations celebrates International Mother Earth Day to raise awareness about climate change and the impact of human activity on nature. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres offered a message to mark the date, calling for global action.
As we mark International Mother Earth Day, our planet is at a tipping point. Humanity continues to abuse the natural world. We heedlessly plunder the Earth's resources, deplete its wildlife and treat air, land and seas as dumping grounds. Crucial ecosystems and food chains are being pushed to the brink of collapse. This is suicidal. We must end our war on nature and nurse it back to health. That means bold climate action to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius and adapt to the changes to come. It means stronger steps to protect biodiversity. And it means reducing pollution by building circular economies that drive down waste. These steps will safeguard our only home and create millions of new jobs. Recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is a chance to set the world on a cleaner, greener, more sustainable path. On International Mother Earth Day, let us all commit to the hard work of restoring our planet and making peace with nature.
US President Joe Biden offered the opening statements of the International Climate Change Summit, saying climate action is a moral and economic imperative. During his remarks, Biden also pledged to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 50 to 52% by 2030, compared with 2005 levels.
This is the decisive decade. This is the decade we must make decisions that will avoid the worst consequences of the climate crisis. So let's run that race. Win more sustainable future than we have now, overcome the existential crisis of our times. We know just how critically important that is. I see an opportunity to create millions of good-paying, middle-class union jobs. Thank you for being part of this summit. Thank you for the communities that you and the commitments you have made, the communities you're from. God bless you all. I look forward to progress that we can make together today and beyond. We really have no choice. We have to get this done. We have to take action, all of us. And this summit is our first step on the road we'll travel together, God willing, all of us, to and through Glasgow this November and the UN Climate Change Conference.
Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed the importance of working together during the climate conference to achieve the most important goal, a clean world.
Everyone's thoughts and efforts directed towards one goal, mankind will surely be able to cope with the climate and environmental challenges and leave a clean and beautiful world to future generations.
Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, stressed the difficult situation that tourism-dependent countries are currently facing, not only due to climate change but also because of the COVID-19 pandemic's major impact on the sector.
The harmful effects of climate change are growing, and the cost of mitigation and recovery is being counted in human lives and livelihoods. The economic situation of our countries was already grave before the COVID-19 pandemic. It is now dire, particularly for tourism-dependent nations. We are literally teetering on the edge of despair.
Argentine President Alberto Fernandez reiterated his government's commitment to the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050 during his speech before the US-hosted climate summit.
Our nationally determined contribution by 27.7% respect to 2016. This is 2% more than already presented in 2020. These are steps consistent with the goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius and carbon neutrality by 2050.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador on Thursday stressed that force will never solve the issue of mass migration, when referring to the United States immigration policies during the virtual climate change summit.
The migratory phenomenon, as we all know, is not resolved with coercive measures, but with justice and well-being.
On Thursday, as part of the celebrations to mark International Mother Earth Day, Bolivia held the forum titled Re-Encounter with the Pachamama, which seeks to promote a law against ecocide and deepen the protection of Mother Earth. The executive director of the Plurinational Authority of Mother Earth, Angelica Ponce, called on the population to fight against climate change, which affects the entire world. The official also explained that working groups were established to draw up guidelines in the fight against climate change. International Mother Earth Day highlights the importance of maintaining the balance in global ecosystems in order to sustain life. The United Nations announced the establishment of this International Day 12 years ago, following the introduction of a resolution by the plurinational state of Bolivia, which was endorsed by over 50 member states. And President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, in the framework of the International Mother Earth Day, highlighted the importance of supporting indigenous peoples and creating international alliances as a way to protect the planet.
Our government is moving forward on different issues, such as the reactivation of the platforms of indigenous farmers, due to the importance that social organizations and indigenous peoples have, since they coexist directly with the Pachamama, and they are one of the main entities to consolidate the national policy and plan on climate change, as well as the cooperation with different international actors in order to obtain the achievements and address the challenges in climate change efforts in Bolivia.
President Arce also announced that the International Fund for Mother Earth and the use of renewable energies will be reactivated in Bolivia.
The International Fund for Mother Earth is in the process of being reactivated to carry out mitigation activities against climate change that I used to refer to as a climate crisis because it is beyond the control of what we can do as a country. We are working towards switching to clean energies such as wind energy and the renewable diesel project to be less dependent on fossil fuels that cause the greenhouse effect.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. India has reported more than 300,000 coronavirus cases over the last 24 hours, the highest daily global total, while the latest figure for COVID-19 related deaths also establishes a new record. According to Health Ministry data, the daily jump of more than 314,000 cases on Thursday surpasses the previous highest one-day rise in the world of over 290,000 cases registered by the United States in January. According to the government, more than two-thirds of hospitals have no vacant beds, and notices have been issued warning of critically low supplies of medical oxygen required to keep COVID-19 patients alive. India has now reported a total of over 15.9 million cases, the world's second highest. Meanwhile, COVID-19 related deaths rose by over 2,000 on Thursday to reach a total of more than 180,000. Germany is set to purchase 30 million doses of Russia's Sputnik V vaccine against COVID-19. According to the announcement, the doses will be split into 3 batches of 10 million to arrive in the country between June and August. The German government is waiting for the approval of the Russian jab by the European Medicines Agency, which is expected by next month. Russia's Sputnik V vaccine is currently registered in 61 countries. The vaccine is 91.6% effective, and the common side effects reported are mild. French authorities have announced that a curfew will be maintained until at least mid-May and that massive orders for self-test kits have been made for the start of the new school year. The French Prime Minister also announced that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will start being administered from Saturday.
The 7 p.m. curfew, I remind you, is maintained and will be maintained until further notice, and we will see in midday the next stage, where the epidemic situation will be. That's clear. So there is no automaticity to the lifting of the curfew, including at this deadline. From the next week onwards, there will be more saliva tests for elementary schools. We were doing 250,000 a week at the end of March. We'll be doing 400,000 a week when we start again, with the prospect of reaching 600,000 tests by midday.
In the last month, Uruguay has gone from being an example in the management of the pandemic to lead in the rankings for daily COVID-19 infections per capita in the world. Medical staff of a private hospital expressed how difficult the deaths due to the coronavirus have been and the challenges that they face.
The thing about this is death, and we in the intensive area do not get a reward because we know that they are coming, and it is very difficult to see them leave. When they come, it is very difficult. One leaves and you have 10 left.
It has become a lot worse. We came from a controlled situation to a situation of many cases. A lot of work, and well, you have seen it. A lot of stress as well.
We have problems with the issue of medication. Drugs to keep patients sedated, because being here with the tubes, they need to be sedated. And well, there is a great shortage of sedatives. For now, we have ventilators and monitors, but we have noticed more of a shortage with medication, which is normal because there's also a great demand for sedatives.
This Thursday, Cuba reported a new daily record for COVID-19 cases at 1,207. In the last few weeks, the country has seen a surge in cases despite the restrictions that remain in place to fight the spread of the virus. Havana and Matanzas continue to be the most affected provinces in the country, reporting 681 and 105 new cases respectively. At the same time, vaccine candidates Soberana 02 and Abdallah are in the final stage of Phase 3 trials, and according to authorities, both will be applied in the upcoming first stage of the mass vaccination campaign to begin in the capital. Cuba's infection rate remains low compared to other nations in the region, and the recovery rate is over 94%. On Thursday, the National Emergency Management Organization of St. Vincent and the Grenadines confirmed another explosive event at La Soufre volcano. The Monitoring Agency for Earthquakes, Volcanoes and Tsunamis in the Eastern Caribbean reported that the plume of ash rose to above 8 kilometers high, while most of the material vomited out of the volcano seems to be moving out to sea. The organization also noted that the south and neighboring islands would not be affected. The arrival of supplies and humanitarian aid to St. Vincent and the Grenadines continues in the framework of the international assistance provided to the island by various countries in the region due to the constant eruptions of La Soufre volcano. On Wednesday, 28 tons of water and a medical team of 6 specialists from Cuba arrived on the island. The government of St. Lucia has also sent a shipment of water tanks to contribute to the storage of the precious liquid in St. Vincent.
Respond to this situation, this disaster situation here, because we have already 2 problems. We have the COVID still on our hands, and also we have the response that we have to do for the volcanic eruption. So Cuba has sent us doctors and medicines and equipment with respect to those specialities, and we have also supplies from them and from St. Lucia. So we thank the Cubans, we thank the St. Lucians, we thank the Venezuelans on this triple level of solidarity to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
This is a modest contribution of the people of Cuba to the broader people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As the ambassador of Venezuela has explained, it was an operation of Caribbean brotherhood, in which the comrades of St. Lucia, the base of the Venezuelan ship, and the help sent by the government and the Cuban people have participated. We are welcoming 6 health specialists who come to strengthen the work of the medical brigade that is here. We're also making a donation of water tanks, buckets and other items that will help the people of St. Vincent. We have been present before the eruption of the La Soufriere volcano, providing medical assistance, and we will continue to be here. It is our way of being consistent with our liberators, with the spirit of solidarity of Bolivar, of the Latin American heroes of Sucre, Chatelier, Martí, Chavez, and Fidel. As our army generals say, the Caribbean and the brother people of St. Vincent, as well as their government, can always count on Cuba.
On Wednesday, Chile's Chamber of Deputies approved landmark legislation to tax super-rich individuals and allocate this money to financing a basic emergency income. Deputies highlighted the importance of the new tax since hundreds of low and middle-income families have seen their finances impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has aggravated the country's economic crisis. The move has been largely welcomed by Chileans, although many have stressed that a one-time only tax on the super-rich does not solve the problem of financing the emergency income on a long-term basis, and demanded that top officials renounce their privileges and part of their salaries. The bill will now move to a possible Senate vote in order to become law. We have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. This Thursday, the Israeli army announced it had carried out missile attacks against Syria, alleging that the move came in response to the launch of a missile from Syria, which landed in the Negev desert near a secret Israeli nuclear facility. According to Syrian state media, a missile attack near the capital Damascus wounded 4 soldiers. However, Syrian air defense systems were able to shoot down most of the missiles before they hit their targets. The missiles were fired from the Israeli-occupied Syrian Golan Heights. The Syrian Foreign Ministry released a statement stressing that the Israeli attacks on its territories are a blatant violation of the agreement on disengagement, and called on the UN and the Security Council to condemn the hostile and repeated acts against the sovereignty of the Syrian Arab Republic. Indonesian Navy ships continued the intense search for a missing submarine on Thursday that likely fell too deep to retrieve, making survival chances of the 53 people on board slim, according to authorities. Neighbouring countries also deployed rescue ships to support the complex operation. The submarine was participating in a training exercise on Wednesday when it missed a scheduled reporting call. The Indonesian Navy reported that an oil spill was spotted at sea near the early diving position of the sub before communication was lost. The Navy believes the submarine sank to a depth of around 600 to 700 metres off the coast of Bali. Navy ships, submarines and aircraft were searching the area where it was last detected. Rescue ships from Singapore and Malaysia are expected to arrive between Saturday and Monday. Australia, the United States, Germany, France, Russia, India, South Korea and Turkey have also offered assistance. And the Indonesian Navy Chief of Staff stated that the 53 crew on the missing submarine could have enough oxygen until early Saturday, but time is quickly running out as rescuers continue with the search efforts.
If we assume the submarine has been in blackout condition, the submarine's oxygen reserve capacity in a blackout is 72 hours, or about 3 days. So, starting from when it lost contact on Wednesday around 3 a.m., it could last until Saturday at 3 a.m. Let's hope we can find them before then. We have maintained cooperation with countries who have submarines. Therefore, when they receive the distress, the countries stand ready to help. Vessels from Singapore and Malaysia have been dispatched, not to mention assistance from 8 other countries.
The Australian government on Wednesday overruled Victoria State's decision to join the Belt and Road Initiative, the flagship project of Chinese President Xi Jinping, as a geostrategic vision for the Asia-Pacific region, saying the agreement was inconsistent with Australia's foreign policy. In a statement released early Thursday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry criticised the move.
The Australia federal government unreasonably vetoed the Belt and Road Agreement signed by Victoria government and China, recklessly interferes in and disrupts the two sides' normal exchange and cooperation. It seriously harms China-Australia relations and mutual trust between the two countries. China expresses strong dissatisfaction and staunch opposition to this, and has already made stern representation with Australia. China reserved the right to take further action in response to this. We urge Australia to abandon the Cold War mentality and ideological prejudice, view China-Australia cooperation objectively and rationally, immediately correct mistakes, turn a new leaf, stop going further down the wrong path and making matters worse for already challenged China-Australia relations.
On Thursday, the United Nations said that food insecurity is rising sharply in Myanmar in the wake of the military takeover, with millions more people expected to go hungry in the coming months. Analysis showed that up to 3.4 million more people will struggle to afford food in the next 3 to 6 months, with urban areas worst affected as job losses mount in manufacturing and construction, while services and food prices rise. The political crisis after the ousting of the elected government has brought the banking system still, shuttering many branches, leaving businesses unable to make payments and customers unable to withdraw cash. The coronavirus pandemic has also taken a heavy toll on the economy, making recovery that much harder. In the United States, hundreds of people attended the funeral of Dante Wright, a 20-year-old father of one who was shot by a white police officer on April 11th in the small city of Brooklyn Center in what should have been a routine traffic stop. The funeral was held just 2 days after former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of the murder of George Floyd, and amid a national reckoning on systemic racism and police brutality. Civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy during the emotional funeral.
One said, well, they said they saw some air fresheners in the back of his car. Well, air fresheners is to keep the bad odors out. Well, we come today as the air fresheners for Minnesota. We're trying to get the stench of police brutality out of the atmosphere. We're trying to get the stench of racism out of the atmosphere. We're trying to get the stench of racial profiling out of the atmosphere. We come to Minnesota as air fresheners because your air is too odorous for us to breathe. We can't breathe in your stinking air no more.
And also in the United States, protesters marched through the streets of Columbus, Ohio on Wednesday night, a day after police shot 16-year-old black teenager Ma'Khia Bryant dead. Demonstrators marched before rallying and silently sitting in the street. Officials with the Columbus Division of Police released initial footage of the shooting on Tuesday night, just hours after it happened, sparking widespread condemnation. The incident took place within minutes of the verdict in the trial of white police officer Derek Chauvin, who was found guilty of the murder of George Floyd. Body camera footage of the shooting of Bryant, released on Wednesday, further ignited outrage over the continued use of lethal force by police against African Americans. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.